Admiral William Carter stood by the large window of the space station. He looked out at the stars and the ships that floated nearby. These ships were all that Earth had to protect itself. There were only 37 of them. They seemed very small against the blackness of space. Carter was a tall man with gray hair. He had spent 40 years in the United Earth Defense Force. Now, at age 62, he faced the biggest challenge of his life. "Admiral, they're calling again," said Olivia Neal. She was Carter's second in command. She had been with him for 15 years, and he trusted her more than anyone. Carter nodded and walked to the communication room. On the large screen, an alien face appeared. It had purple skin, 6 eyes, and no nose. This was Ambassador Kazitvak of the Zorian species, the main power in the Galactic Concordat. "Human," said the alien in a voice that sounded like rocks being crushed. "Your time to decide is over. Will your planet submit to the Concordat, or will you face destruction?" Carter kept his face calm, but inside he felt anger. 3 days ago, these aliens had appeared near Jupiter. They had hundreds of ships, each, one bigger than anything humans had ever built. They demanded that Earth join their Concordat, a group of planets they controlled. "Ambassador," said Carter, "Earth needs more time to consider your offer. We are a democratic society. Our leaders must speak with their people." The alien made a sound like laughter. "Your species is young and weak. Look at your tiny fleet. Our smallest battle group has 10 times more ships than your entire force. You have no choice but to join us or die." The screen went black. Carter turned to Neal. "They're getting impatient," he said. Neal nodded. She was younger than Carter, only 40, with short brown hair and serious eyes. "The diplomatic team is still trying to buy us time, but I don't think it will work much longer." "Then we need to move faster with Protocol Hydra," said Carter. They walked to a secure room deep inside the station. Inside, a group of officers worked at computers. Maps and diagrams covered the walls. This was the real command center, hidden from any alien spies. "Give me an update," Carter said to the room. A man stood up. This was Dr. Alan Morrison, head of advanced weapons. He was a civilian, but Carter respected him deeply. "We're ready, Admiral," Morrison said. "All ships have been fitted with the new technology. The crews have been trained. We just need a little more time to position everything correctly." Carter looked at the main screen. It showed the solar system. Near Jupiter, hundreds of red dots represented the alien fleet. Around Earth, a few blue dots showed the human ships. "What about the Luna and Mars bases?" asked Carter. "Ready and waiting." "For your command," said Neal. "The asteroids too," Carter nodded. "And they still have no idea?" "None," said Morrison with a small smile. "Their scans can't detect our true capabilities. They think we're using simple fusion drives and basic weaponry. They have no clue about the quantum tech." Just then, a young officer ran into the room. "Admiral, the aliens are moving their fleet. They're heading toward Earth." Carter turned to the screen. The red dots were indeed moving, forming into attack groups. "How long until they reach us?" he asked. "At their current speed, about 48 hours, said the officer. Neal looked at Carter. "The diplomats failed." "Or the aliens were never interested in talking," said Carter. He straightened his uniform and looked around the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, it seems the time for talking is over. Activate Protocol Hydra. All ships to battle stations." The room burst into activity. Officers ran to their stations, sending coded messages to the fleet. Carter turned to Morrison. "Will it work, Doctor? Can we really beat them?" Morrison's face was serious. "Our ships are small, yes, but size isn't everything. Each of our vessels carries technology the aliens can't even imagine. Our quantum-entangled warheads can bypass their shields completely. Our AI combat systems learn and adapt faster than their computers. And our stealth technology makes our ships nearly invisible when activated." "But they have so many ships," said Neal. "Numbers don't always win wars," said Morrison. "Quality can beat quantity." Carter nodded and turned to another officer. "Get me Captain Susan Wells on the comm." The face of a woman appeared on a small screen. She had red hair and a determined expression. She was on the bridge of her ship, the EDS Artemis. "Captain Wells, are your pilots ready?" asked Carter. "Yes, Admiral," she said. "We've been running the special training sessions non-stop." "My crews are tired but ready." "Good," said Carter. "You'll lead the first strike. Remember, hit their communication nodes first, just like we planned." "Understood, sir," said Wells. "The Artemis won't let you down." As Carter ended the call, a technician approached him. "Sir, Lieutenant Hoffman has something important to show you." Carter followed the technician to another part of the room, where a young man with glasses was working intensely at a computer. "Lieutenant Gregory Hoffman, sir," the young man said, standing up quickly. "I've been analyzing their communication protocols, and I've found something. A flaw we can exploit." Carter looked at the screen. The data was complex, but the implications were clear. "Their entire fleet relies on a centralized command structure," Hoffman explained. "Disrupt that and we can throw them into chaos." Carter smiled for the first time in days. "Excellent work, Lieutenant. This could be the key to everything." Over. The next day, the station was a flurry of activity. The human fleet moved into position, hiding behind Earth's moon or using their stealth technology to position themselves strategically. Supply ships rushed fuel and ammunition to the warships. Medical facilities prepared for casualties. Carter barely slept. He spent hours in meetings with his officers, refining their plan. He knew they would only get one chance at this. If they failed, Earth would fall. Finally, the message everyone had been dreading arrived. The alien ultimatum: surrender or face annihilation. Carter stood before the communication screen. The alien commander, Supreme War Leader Draz Tur, was even more intimidating than the ambassador. His purple face was covered in scars. "Your pathetic species has one last chance," said Draz Tur. "Submit now, or we will destroy your civilization." Carter took a deep breath. The next words would either save humanity or doom it. "We respectfully decline," he said calmly. The alien seemed shocked for a moment, then laughed. "You humans are even more primitive than I thought. You cannot comprehend your situation. Prepare to witness the end of your world." The screen went black. Carter turned to Neil and the others in the command center. "And so it begins," he said quietly. "Let's show these aliens that humanity is not to be underestimated." As the alien fleet moved toward Earth, the human diplomats made one last attempt to avoid war. A team led by Ambassador Peter Gordon met with the Zorians on a neutral space station near Mars. The meeting did not go well. "Your species is young and foolish," said the Zorian leader. "You think you can stand against the Concordat? We have conquered 100 worlds. Your tiny fleet is nothing to us." Gordon kept his face calm. His job was not to win the argument, but to buy time. Every hour the aliens spent talking was another hour for the human fleet to prepare. "Perhaps we can find a middle ground," he suggested. "Earth could join your Concordat as a special member, with some independence." The aliens laughed, a harsh sound like metal grinding. They did not know that while they talked, humanity was getting ready for a fight they would never forget. Back on Earth's main space station, Admiral Carter watched the clock. The diplomatic meeting was still going on, but he knew it would fail. The aliens wanted Earth to surrender completely, and humans would never do that. "How are the ships doing?" he asked Commander Neil. "All 37 are in position," she said. "Captain Wells reports that the Artemis is ready to lead the first strike. The stealth systems are working perfectly. The aliens have no idea where our ships really are." Carter nodded. The aliens thought all human ships were gathered near Earth, preparing for a last stand. In reality, 20 of the vessels had used their advanced stealth technology to move into position around the alien fleet. They were invisible to alien sensors. "And the special weapons?" asked Carter. "Dr. Morrison says they're all online and tested," said Neil. "The quantum-entangled warheads are ready. Each one is small enough to fit on our tiny ships, but powerful enough to take down their biggest vessels." Dr. Morrison entered the command center looking tired but excited. He had not slept in 3 days, working to perfect the weapons that might save humanity. "Admiral," he said. "I have good news. We've improved the AI combat systems even more. They can now predict alien movements 5 seconds before they happen. That's a big advantage in space combat." Carter smiled. 5 seconds is an eternity in battle. "Well done, Doctor." On the EDS Artemis, Captain Susan Wells prepared her crew. Her ship would lead the first strike against the aliens, targeting their communication systems. It was a dangerous mission, but she had the best pilots in the fleet. "Listen up," she told her crew. "The aliens think we're weak because our ships are small. They think quantity beats quality. Today we prove them wrong." A young officer raised his hand. "Captain, what if their shields are stronger than we expect?" "Good question," said Wells. "That's why we're using the quantum-entangled warheads. These weapons don't just explode, they create small tears in reality itself. No shield can stop that." The crew looked nervous but determined. They had trained for this moment. Each person knew exactly what to do. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Gregory Hoffman worked with a team of tech experts on the space station. They had discovered that the alien fleet used a central system to coordinate all their ships. If they could disrupt that system, the alien fleet would be thrown into confusion. "The key is timing," Hoffman explained to his team. "We need to hit their main communication nodes at exactly the same moment. If we miss even one, they might be able to recover." His team nodded. They had practiced this attack hundreds of times in simulations. Now they would do it for real. As the day went on, news came that the diplomatic talks had failed. The aliens had given Earth 6 hours to surrender or they would attack. Carter called all his top officers to the command center. "This is it," he said. "In 6 hours we either win or lose everything. Are we ready?" One by one, the officers reported. The fleet was in position. The weapons were ready, the crews were prepared. Everything that could be done had been done. Carter looked at them all. "I won't lie to you. This will be the hardest fight of our lives. The aliens outnumber us 10 to 1, but numbers aren't everything. We have better technology, better training, and something they don't have, we're fighting for our home." The officers nodded. They trusted Carter. He had led them through difficult times before. "What about the secret installations?" asked Neil. Carter smiled. "That's our ace in the hole. The aliens know about our 37 ships, but they have no idea about the bases on Luna and Mars or the asteroid platforms. If things go bad, those will be our last line of defense." For years, Earth had been building hidden weapons platforms on the Moon, on Mars, and on several asteroids throughout the solar system. Each one was armed with the same advanced technology as the ships. Together, they could launch thousands of unmanned combat vehicles, small, deadly fighters that could swarm an enemy fleet. But Carter hoped they wouldn't need to use them. The plan was to win with the fleet alone. As the deadline approached, Carter sent a message to all human ships. "Men and women of the Earth Defense Force," he said. "Today we face an enemy who thinks they know us. They see our small fleet and think we are weak. They judge us by our size, not by our spirit or our technology. Today we will show them their mistake." On the Artemis, Captain Wells gathered her crew for a final briefing. "Remember your training," she said. "Wait for my signal, then activate your stealth systems. We'll be invisible until we strike. Hit the targets I assign you, then pull back. Don't try to be heroes. One hit and retreat. We can't afford to lose anyone." The crew nodded. They were scared, but ready. On the space station, Lieutenant Hoffman made last-minute adjustments to his electronic warfare program. It would target the alien communication systems, blocking their ability to coordinate their fleet. "This will work," he told himself. "It has to work." Dr. Morrison checked his weapons systems one last time. The quantum-entangled warheads were his life's work. Small but incredibly powerful, they created tiny distortions in space-time when they exploded. These distortions could pass through any shield or armor. "Ready to change the rules of space combat?" asked Neil, who had come to check on him. Morrison nodded. "The aliens think bigger is better. We're about to prove them wrong." As the deadline approached, the alien fleet formed into attack positions. Their ships were massive, some as large as small cities. They transmitted messages to Earth, showing their weapons and boasting of past victories. They wanted to frighten the humans into surrendering. It didn't work. The deadline passed. The alien commander, Supreme War Leader Drazatur, sent one final message to Earth. "Your time is up," he said. "You have chosen destruction. We will burn your cities and take your planet. Your tiny fleet cannot save you." Carter's reply was simple. "We'll see." The alien fleet began to move toward Earth. Their huge ships, arranged in perfect formation, looked unstoppable. But they didn't know what was waiting for them. Carter gave the order. "Begin Protocol Hydra." And with that, the battle for Earth began. Supreme War Leader Drazatur stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. It was the largest warship in the Concordat fleet, nearly 4 miles long. Around him, Zorian officers worked at their stations, monitoring the fleet's progress toward Earth. "Status report," Drazatur demanded. "The human planet is 8 hours away at current speed," said his second-in-command. "Their fleet remains in orbit around their world. They appear to be forming a defensive line." Drazatur made a sound of satisfaction. "Pathetic. They think they can stop us with 37 small ships? Our fleet has over 400 vessels." "Should we increase speed, War Leader?" asked an officer. "No," said Drazatur. "Let them wait and worry. Fear will weaken them further." What the Zorian commander didn't know was that human ships were already among his fleet, hidden by their advanced stealth technology. 20 vessels, including Captain Susan Wells's EDS Artemis, had positioned themselves carefully, waiting for the signal to attack. On the bridge of the Artemis, Wells checked her systems one last time. Her ship was currently invisible to the aliens, who relied on standard detection methods. The Artemis used a different technology, quantum displacement, that bent light and other signals around the ship. "All systems ready, Captain," reported her pilot, a young man named Jack Porter. Wells nodded. "Remember, we hit them hard and fast, then pull back. Don't stay in one place too long." The plan was simple but dangerous. Each human ship would target a specific alien communication node, using the information Lieutenant Hoffman had discovered. By attacking these nodes simultaneously, they would disrupt the aliens' ability to coordinate their massive fleet. On Earth's main space station, Admiral Carter watched the tactical display. The alien fleet was shown as red dots moving slowly toward Earth. The human fleet appeared as blue dots, some near Earth, others hidden among the alien ships. "Signal from Lieutenant Hoffman," said Commander Neal. "The electronic warfare package is ready." Carter nodded. "And Dr. Morrison's special weapons?" "All loaded and armed," said Neal. "The quantum entangled warheads are ready to deploy." Carter took a deep breath. "Then it's time. Send the code word to Captain Wells. Operation Hydra begins now." Neal sent the message. "Hercules." Aboard the Artemis, Wells received the code word. "This is it," she told her crew. "Weapons hot. Prepare to disengage stealth on my mark." Similar scenes played out on 19 other human ships, all hidden among the alien fleet. Their captains prepared their crews, checked their weapons, and waited for Wells' signal. 3, 2, 1. "Mark," said Wells. In an instant, 20 human ships appeared throughout the alien fleet, as if from nowhere. Before the aliens could react, the humans fired their special weapons. The quantum-entangled warheads didn't look impressive. Each was only the size of a small car. But when they hit their targets, the results were devastating. The warheads didn't just explode. They created small tears in the fabric of reality. These distortions passed through shields as if they weren't there, then reformed inside the alien ships. On the Eternal Dominance, alarms screamed. Drazatur watched in shock as 20 of his ships were hit at once. "What is happening?" he roared. "Where did they come from?" "Human ships, War Leader," shouted an officer. "They were hiding among us. Our shields had no effect." Drazatur couldn't believe it. How had the primitive humans developed such technology? And how had they approached without being detected? "Order the fleet to fire on the human vessels," he commanded. But his orders couldn't reach most of the fleet. The human attack had targeted the communication nodes, just as planned. The Concordate's highly centralized command structure was falling apart. On the Artemis, Wells watched as her weapons found their targets. "Direct hit on the primary node," reported her weapons officer. "Their communications are disrupted." "Good," said Wells. "Now get us out of here, maximum speed." The Artemis and the other human ships fired their engines, darting away as the confused aliens tried to target them. On Earth's space station, Admiral Carter watched as the first phase of the attack unfolded. Exactly as planned. "Now, Lieutenant Hoffman," he said, "start Phase 2. Hoffman activated his electronic warfare program. It sent thousands of false signals to the alien fleet, creating phantom targets and jamming their remaining communication channels. From the moon base and several hidden satellites, Earth launched swarms of micro-drones. Each was only the size of a baseball, but carried advanced electronic warfare equipment. They infiltrated the alien ships through hull breaches and maintenance ports. Inside the alien vessels, the drones caused havoc. They shut down weapon systems, altered navigation data, and scrambled sensor readings. Some alien ships began firing on each other, unable to tell friend from foe. Admiral Carter turned to Commander Neal. "Phase 3? Neal checked her screens. "Ready, sir. The remaining ships are in position." While 20 human vessels had led the surprise attack, 17 others had stayed near Earth. Now they moved forward in a tight formation, targeting the confused alien ships. "All vessels advance and fire at will," ordered Carter. "Target their engines and weapons first." The human ships moved with perfect coordination. Unlike the aliens who relied on central control, each human captain had been trained to think independently. They could work together even without constant communication. The battle raged for hours. The aliens still had far more ships, but they couldn't use their numbers effectively. Their formation had broken down, their communications were jammed, and they couldn't understand how the much smaller human vessels were causing so much damage. On the Eternal Dominance, Draz-Tur struggled to regain control of his fleet. "Get me a secure channel to the battle group commanders," he shouted. "We're trying, War Leader," said his communications officer. "But the humans are jamming all frequencies, and those small devices they deployed, they're inside our systems now." Draz-Tur had never experienced anything like this. The Concordate had conquered dozens of worlds, and none had offered this kind of resistance. These humans were not fighting like a less advanced species. They were fighting smarter, not just with brute force. "Target the nearest human ship," he ordered. "Full weapons barrage." His gunners obeyed, firing a massive volley at the EDS Valiant, commanded by John Miller. The energy beams and plasma torpedoes should have vaporized the small human vessel. But the Valiant performed a maneuver that seemed to defy physics, spinning and twisting in ways Draz-Tur thought impossible for a ship its size. Most of the shots missed, and those that hit seemed to do minimal damage. "How?" Draz-Tur demanded. "How is that possible?" What he didn't know was that human ships used artificial intelligence systems far more advanced than anything the Concordate had. These systems could predict enemy fire and calculate evasive maneuvers in microseconds. Human pilots worked with their AI partners, achieving reaction times that seemed supernatural to the aliens. The battle continued to go badly for the Concordate. After 8 hours of fighting, they had lost nearly 100 ships, while only destroying 3 human vessels. But they still had hundreds more, and Draz-Tur was adapting. "Form defensive clusters," he ordered the ships that could still hear him. "Each group operate independently. Ignore central command protocols." It was against everything the Zorians believed in. Their entire military was built on strict hierarchy and central control, but Draz-Tur had no choice. The old way wasn't working against these humans. Slowly, the alien fleet began to reorganize. They formed smaller groups that could function without constant communication with the flagship. They changed their tactics, becoming more cautious, less predictable. On the space station, Admiral Carter watched this development with concern. "They're adapting," he said to Neal. "Faster than we expected." Neal nodded. "The surprise factor is wearing off. Our stealth technology isn't as effective now that they know to look for it." Carter studied the tactical display. The aliens still outnumbered them greatly, even after their losses. And now they were changing their approach, becoming harder to predict. "Contact Captain Wells," he said. "Tell her to pull back to defensive position Alpha. All ships regroup and prepare for the next phase." The human vessels began to withdraw, falling back toward Mars. The aliens followed, more cautiously now. "Do we activate the Luna and Mars bases?" asked Neil. Carter shook his head. "Not yet, that's our last resort. First, let's see if Dr. Morrison's new weapon works as well as he claims." Morrison had been working on something even more advanced than the quantum-entangled warheads, a device that could temporarily disrupt the laws of physics in a small area, rendering all conventional weapons useless. "It's ready," said Morrison, who had joined them in the command center. "But we only have 3 prototypes. We need to use them where they'll have the most impact." Carter nodded. "Target their flagship, the Eternal Dominance. If we can take out Draztur, it might disrupt their chain of command again." As the human fleet regrouped near Mars, the aliens pressed their advantage. They thought the humans were retreating, giving up. They were wrong. The first phase of humanity's defense was over, but the real battle was just beginning. The human fleet gathered near Mars, regrouping after the first phase of battle. Though they had caught the aliens by surprise and caused significant damage, they had also lost 3 ships, the EDS Phoenix, the EDS Horizon, and the EDS Guardian. Nearly 200 brave men and women had died defending Earth. On the bridge of the EDS Valiant, Commander Olivia Neal coordinated the fleet's movements. The ship had taken heavy damage during the battle, losing its main drive. They could still move using the backup systems, but not quickly. "Status report," Neal demanded. "Shields at 40%, reported her engineering officer. "Weapons systems still operational, life support stable. But the main drive is beyond repair. We'll need a shipyard for that." Neal nodded. She had expected worse. "And the rest of the fleet?" 17 ships reporting moderate to severe damage. The others are operational. Captain Wells on the Artemis reports her stealth systems are still functioning at full capacity. That was good news. The Artemis and 5 other ships with working stealth systems would be crucial for the next phase of battle. Admiral Carter's voice came over the secure channel from the space station. "Commander Neal, what's your assessment?" "The surprise attack worked better than expected," she replied. "We disrupted their communications and caused significant confusion, but they're adapting faster than we predicted. Draztur has reorganized his forces into smaller, independent groups." "Agreed," said Carter. "Their numerical advantage will start to tell now. We need to deploy the new weapon." Neal knew what he meant. Dr. Morrison's latest creation, the reality disruptor. It was untested in actual combat, but the simulations looked promising. "I'll coordinate with Captain Wells," she said. "The Artemis can get close enough to deploy it against their flagship." On the space station, Carter watched the tactical display with growing concern. The alien fleet had reformed into 20 battle groups, each operating independently. They were advancing on Mars from multiple directions. Dr. Morrison stood nearby, looking worried. "If they reach Earth with this new formation, our defenses won't hold. The reality disruptors might not be enough." "Then we need to make sure they don't reach Earth," said Carter. "It's time for Phase 4. Morrison looked surprised. "Already? I thought that was our last resort." "It was," said Carter grimly. "But we're running out of options." He opened a secure channel to all human ships. "All vessels, this is Admiral Carter. Implement Phase 4. I repeat, implement Phase 4. On the EDS Artemis, Captain Susan Wells received the order with mixed feelings. Phase 4 meant deploying Dr. Morrison's untested reality disruptors against the alien flagship. It was dangerous. No one knew exactly what would happen when the device activated. "Prepare the package," she told her weapons officer. "We'll need to get within 5,000 miles of the Eternal Dominance." "That close?" asked Jack Porter, her pilot. "Their point defenses will tear us apart." "Not if they can't see us," said Wells. "Our stealth systems still work, and we'll have help. 5 other ships will create a diversion." The plan was set. The Artemis would approach the alien flagship under stealth, while 5 other human vessels launched an attack from another direction. When the aliens focused on the obvious threat, the Artemis would deploy the reality disruptor. As the human fleet prepared, the aliens continued their advance. Supreme War Leader Drazatur had reorganized his forces and was determined to crush the human resistance. "These humans are clever," he told his officers, "but cleverness cannot overcome superior numbers and firepower. We will adapt and overcome." What Drazatur didn't know was that humans had been adapting and preparing for this moment for decades. Long before the Concordat arrived, Earth's leaders had feared contact with hostile aliens. They had built defenses that went far beyond the 37 ships the aliens could see. On Luna, Earth's moon, Commander Paul Jackson received Admiral Carter's order to prepare for Phase 4. His base was hidden beneath the lunar surface, invisible to alien sensors. "Power up all systems," he ordered his team. "Prepare to launch on the Admiral's command." Similar preparations took place at the secret base on Mars, commanded by Major Lisa Chen, and at 12 asteroid installations scattered throughout the solar system. Each base housed hundreds of unmanned combat vehicles, small, agile fighters, controlled by advanced AI systems. Together, they could launch thousands of these vehicles, overwhelming the alien fleet with sheer numbers. It was humanity's final surprise, a hidden fleet far larger than the one the aliens had mocked. Meanwhile, the battle near Mars intensified. 5 human ships led by the EDS Defender launched an attack against the Eternal Dominance and its escort vessels. The aliens responded with overwhelming firepower, focusing all their attention on the approaching threat. "They've taken the bait," reported Wells's tactical officer. "All their sensors are pointed at the Defender group." Wells nodded. "Take us in, Mr. Porter. Full stealth mode." The Artemis glided silently toward the massive alien flagship, invisible to its sensors. They came, within the target range of 5,000 miles, close enough for the reality disruptor to work. "Deploy the device," ordered Wells. Her weapons officer pressed a series of commands. From the Artemis, a small probe launched toward the Eternal Dominance. It looked insignificant, just a metal sphere about 3 feet in diameter. But inside was Dr. Morrison's most advanced creation. "Device away," reported the weapons officer. "Impact in 30 seconds. Wells held her breath. The next half-minute seemed to stretch forever. The probe continued its approach to the alien flagship, still undetected. Impact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The probe struck the Eternal Dominance's hull. There was no explosion, no visible effect at all. For a moment, Wells feared the device had failed. Then it happened. A sphere of distorted space appeared around the alien flagship, about a mile in diameter. Inside this sphere, the laws of physics changed. Energy weapons fired by the Eternal Dominance bent in impossible directions, missing their targets. The old ship's engines flared but produced no movement. Even light behaved strangely, making the flagship appear to stretch and compress. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, Drazatur experienced pure chaos. His sensors showed impossible readings. His weapons fired but hit nothing. The ship shuddered as if it might tear itself apart. "What is happening?" he roared. "What have they done to us?" His science officer looked terrified. "It's some kind of field that alters physical constants within its boundary. Our technology doesn't work correctly inside it." The reality disruptor worked exactly as Dr. Morrison had predicted. It created a bubble where physical laws were slightly changed, not enough to harm living beings, but enough to make most technology unreliable. The effect would last for about an hour before the device burned itself out. With the enemy flagship effectively neutralized, the human fleet pressed their advantage. The Defender and its accompanying ships focused their fire on the escort vessels, which were now confused without guidance from their leader. On the space station, Admiral Carter watched with satisfaction. "Now, Commander Jackson," he ordered. "Launch the Luna fleet." From hidden bases on the moon, hundreds of small, unmanned fighters launched into space. Each was only the size of a car, but carried weapons as advanced as those on the larger human ships. They formed into swarms targeting the alien battle groups nearest Earth. Major Chen, continued Carter, launch the Mars fleet. From the red planet's surface, another wave of fighters emerged, joining the battle from another direction. Finally, Carter gave the order to the asteroid bases, and a third wave of fighters joined the fight. In total, over 3,000 unmanned vehicles joined the battle, turning the tide decisively in humanity's favor. The aliens, who had mocked Earth's tiny fleet of 37 ships, now faced a force that outnumbered even their own massive armada. On the Eternal Dominance, still trapped in the reality distortion field, Draz-Tur watched in horror as his sensor officer reported the new development. Thousands of small craft have appeared from the humans' moon, from Mars, and from the asteroid belt, said the officer. They're attacking our battle groups. Our ships are taking heavy damage. Draz-Tur couldn't believe it. Where had these fighters come from? How had the humans hidden such a large force? Send the order to all ships, he said, his voice shaking with rage and fear. Fall back beyond the orbit of their outer planet. We need to regroup and reconsider our approach. But many of his ships couldn't receive the order. The human fighters targeted communication systems first, just as the larger ships had done in the initial attack. The carefully coordinated alien fleet was breaking apart under the onslaught. For the next 12 hours, the battle raged throughout the solar system. The human fighters, controlled by AI systems that could react far faster than any living pilot, darted between the larger alien vessels, hitting vulnerable points with precision. The human fleet, though damaged, continued to fight as well. Captain Wells and the Artemis deployed. The 3 months passed after the battle for Earth. The planet slowly recovered from the conflict, repairing damaged infrastructure and mourning those lost in the fight. The remains of alien ships were studied carefully, providing new insights into Concordat technology. Admiral William Carter stood at the window of his office on the space station, looking out at the busy shipyard nearby. Earth's fleet was being rebuilt and expanded. The 37 ships that had faced the Concordat were now being joined by dozens more, all incorporating the lessons learned during the battle. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Commander Olivia Neal entered, looking much better than she had in the days after the battle. The Valiant had been severely damaged, but its crew had survived thanks to Neal's leadership. "Admiral," she said, saluting. "The new ships are ahead of schedule. The first 10 will be ready for trials next week." Carter nodded. "Good. And the defensive installations?" "The Luna and Mars bases are fully operational again. The asteroid platforms are at 90% capacity. The Sol defense grid has been upgraded with Dr. Morrison's latest improvements." Carter turned back to the window. "Do you think it will be enough when they return?" Neal stood beside him, looking at the activity in the shipyard. "I believe so, sir. We're stronger now, better prepared, and most importantly, we know what we're facing." In the 3 months since the battle, Earth had learned much about the Galactic Concordat. The alien coalition controlled over 200 star systems, with the Zorians as the dominant species. They had conquered dozens of worlds, adding each to their empire. Earth was simply the latest target in their ongoing expansion, but the Concordat had never faced resistance like humanity's. Most species surrendered after seeing the massive alien fleet. None had the combination of advanced technology and tactical innovation that Earth possessed. "Message from Deep Space Monitoring, Admiral," said a young officer entering the office. "We've detected multiple ships entering the solar system at the outer boundary." Carter tensed. "The Concordat returning already?" The officer shook his head. "No, sir, different configuration entirely, smaller vessels moving cautiously. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, requesting peaceful contact." Carter and Neal exchanged glances. This was unexpected. "Put it on screen," ordered Carter. The main display lit up, showing a group of ships unlike the Concordat vessels, where the Zorian ships had been massive and aggressive in design. These were smaller with elegant curves and no visible weapons. A face appeared on the screen, an alien, but not a Zorian. This creature had blue skin, large eyes, and feathery crests on its head. "People of Earth," it said in carefully pronounced English. "I am Ambassador Thrill of the Free Worlds Alliance. We come in peace, seeking dialogue with the species that defeated the Concordat." Carter stepped forward. This is Admiral William Carter of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact. May I ask how you learned of our conflict with the Concordat? The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. Word spreads quickly in the galaxy, Admiral. When a young species defeats the mighty Concordat fleet, many take notice, especially those of us who have suffered under Zorian rule. This was interesting news. Carter hadn't considered that Earth's victory might have consequences beyond their own system. We request permission to send a delegation to your world, continued Ambassador Thrill. There is much we wish to discuss. Carter looked at Neil, who nodded slightly. Permission granted, Ambassador. We will transmit coordinates for a meeting place. After the communication ended, Carter called an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. Representatives from all major nations gathered in the station's conference room. We need to be cautious, said President Laura Evans of the North American Union. This could be a trick, another alien force seeing if we're vulnerable after the battle. I don't think so, said Dr. Alan Morrison, who had been studying the new alien ships. Their technology is significantly different from the Concordats, and they've made no aggressive moves. Either way, we should be prepared, said General Eric Stone of the United Earth Military Command. We can meet them, but with full security. Protocols in place. Carter agreed. The meeting will take place on the neutral space station we've established near Luna. Maximum security, but also maximum respect. If these aliens truly are peaceful, they could be valuable allies. 2 days. Later, the delegation from the Free Worlds Alliance arrived at the meeting station. Ambassador Thrill was accompanied by representatives from 16 other alien species, each different from the others in appearance and manner. Carter, Neil, Morrison, and several Earth leaders met with them in the station's conference room. Guards stood at every entrance, and the sole defense grid was on high alert. But no hostilities occurred. We have watched your species for some time, explained Thrill. When the Concordat arrived in your system, many of us feared you would fall as others have. But you surprised everyone with your resistance. The Concordat underestimated us, said Carter simply. Thrill made that strange smiling gesture again. Yes, they judged you by the size of your fleet, not by your ingenuity or resolve. A mistake they have made before, but never with such devastating consequences. The alien explained that the Free Worlds Alliance was a loose coalition of species, who had either broken free from Concordat control or had managed to avoid conquest. They had existed in secret for decades, lacking the military power to directly challenge the Zorians. But now everything has changed, said Thrill. Your victory has shown the galaxy that the Concordat is not invincible. Already rebellions have broken out on 3 Xorian-controlled worlds. The balance of power is shifting. Carter was surprised by this news. He had been focused on defending Earth, not on changing galactic politics. What exactly do you want from us? Asked President Evans directly. An alliance, said Thrill. We have technology we can share with you. You have military innovations that could help free other worlds. Together, we could create a new order in this sector of the galaxy, one based on cooperation rather than conquest. The discussions continued for days. Each alien species had its own interests and concerns. Some were primarily interested in trade, others in military cooperation. All were impressed by humanity's defeat of the Concordat. Carter and Neil spent hours with the alien military representatives, exchanging information about Zorian tactics and vulnerabilities. Dr. Morrison met with alien scientists, comparing notes on weapons and defense systems. Earth's diplomats worked to establish formal relations with each species. Finally, after a week of negotiations, the Treaty of Luna was signed. Earth officially joined the Free Worlds Alliance, becoming its newest and most militarily significant member. This is just the beginning, Thrill told Carter after the signing. The Concordat will return not just to Earth but to all worlds that defy them. The war has only begun. Carter nodded grimly. We'll be ready, and this time we won't be fighting alone. As news of the alliance spread throughout Earth, reactions were mixed. Many celebrated the new allies and the knowledge they brought. Others worried about involving Earth in a larger galactic conflict. But most agreed that they had little choice. The Concordat would return eventually, likely with an even larger fleet. 6 months after the treaty signing, a new type of ship emerged from Earth's shipyards. It was called the EDS Unity, and it was humanity's first vessel designed specifically for diplomatic missions. Larger than previous Earth ships but still small by Concordat standards, it incorporated technology from several Alliance species. Captain Olivia Neal, promoted after her actions during the battle, was given command of the Unity for its maiden voyage. Its mission was to visit the homeworlds of their new allies, strengthening the bonds between Earth and the Alliance. As Neal prepared to depart, Admiral Carter came to see her off. They stood on the observation deck watching as the final preparations were made. "I never imagined we'd be here," said Neal. "6 months ago we were fighting for survival. Now we're part of a galactic alliance." Carter smiled slightly. "The Zorians made a fundamental error. They saw our small fleet and assumed we were weak. They didn't understand that humanity has always thrived on being underestimated." Neal nodded. "Their military doctrine is all about overwhelming force. Bigger ships, more weapons, larger fleets. They couldn't comprehend our approach. Quality over quantity," said Carter. "Innovation over tradition, freedom over submission. These are the principles that saved Earth." As they spoke, Lieutenant Frank Rivera approached. He had served on the Valiant during the battle and was now Neal's executive officer on the Unity. "Captain Admiral," he said, saluting. "The ship is ready for departure." Neal returned the salute. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Is the crew prepared?" "Yes, ma'am. And our alien guests are settled in their quarters. Ambassador Thrill sends his compliments." Carter shook Neal's hand. "Good luck, Captain. Remember, you're not just representing Earth now. You're showing the galaxy what humanity stands for." Neal smiled. "I think we've already shown them that. Sir, when they mocked our tiny fleet, they had no idea they were sealing their own doom.